We all love Gwen Stacy and Mayday Parker, but what about the Cinderella or the Fairy Spider-Woman? They deserve a moment in the spotlight too, and that is exactly what we are here to do right now. So 10, Spinstress. She is my favorite spider variant. I've talked about her so many times on this channel, and we are back at it again. She is literally Spider-Man, but Cinderella, and her ball gown is a thing of dreams. A stunning twist on the classic Spider-Man myth, Petra brings a vibrant musical energy to the hero. Petra Parker got her spider powers from her fairy godmother so she could attend the ball and save her city, but there's of course a catch. She loses them at midnight, or she loses the ability to ever find love. And you can guess which choice she's stuck with. 9, White Widow. This is not Yelena. This White Widow was part of a fan movement turned canon. After the success of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, fans started creating their own Spider-Sonas. Marvel contacted some fans to showcase their Spider-Sonas in Spider-Verse Volume 3, and it was a really cool project, and many of those Sonas are now featured on this list, including White Widow. In addition to normal spider powers, she can coat herself, her webs, and gloves in toxins that she produces at will. 8, Spinster. Like Spinstress, Spinster also wears a really nice dress. She existed as a noblewoman in the era of the French Revolution, and her special spider ability is tied to her hair. Her hair is her webbing. She can extend it as far as she wants because the vibrations on the webs allow her to eavesdrop on conversations. I do wonder though that if this means she can feel whenever that someone like breaks her webbing, and I imagine that's probably not pleasant. But 7, Garden Spider. I know that I said Cinderella Spider-Woman was my favorite, but Garden Spider is a really close second. She's shrunk down to bug size. Petunia Parker spends her days living in her old garden, caring for her plants, living in her old watering can, and fighting off the villainous aphid. I imagine that she must have some sort of plant-based power because her flowers are doing really well for being cared for by someone who is less than 3 apples tall. Though little, she packs a serious punch and can take down villains nearly 10 times her size. 6, Star Spider. The Spider-Woman in space. Persephone Parker is Star Spider from Earth 1978, debuting in Edge of Spider-Verse 3. An apprentice to Professor Osborna, Persephone has her hands full juggling her quantum engineering internship, a secret relationship with Osborn's daughter, and of course her spider heroics. Assisted by and with an outfit created from nanobot Shi'ar technology called Spiders, Star Spider was able to fend off Octavius and the Kree army that were trying to invade her home. 5, Ren. Ren is Canadian, but she lives in Japan. Her unique extra power is the ability to control emotions. This stems from her desire to control her own emotions, often feeling extreme sadness. So now she can utilize this power to create extreme emotions in opponents to throw them off and give her an edge in battle. Her costume is reminiscent of the neon signs that light up Japan's night sky. 4, Cobweb. Okay, Fairy Spider-Man. Technically, she is a Seelie and based her Seelie glamour on Spider-Man, whom she is a big fan of. Me too, girl. She helped Spider-Man and friends save their friend in Central Park, and Spidey gave her his blessing to join the Spider Legacy as Spider Sprite. Cobweb has wings and spits her webbing from her mouth, which is such a choice, but you know, I'm not making it. 3, Web Witch. You can probably guess what additional abilities Web Witch is working with. After learning how to navigate the web of life and destiny, Maeve Z further developed her sorcery to carry cards capable of summoning any spider hero she has encountered across the multiverse. Each card bears the symbols of the spider person, and anytime she finds a world in peril, she just calls upon the right hero for the job. 2, Dream Spider. Crystal was friends with Peter Parker, and when the Peter of her world destroyed his dream construct, the fragments connected with Crystal, turning her into a spider person with dream-related powers, including access to the dream dimension and the ability to alter dreams. And a bonus addition, because she's like a ballerina puppet master Spider-Man, and leaving her off this list is a crime that I am not willing to commit. Spider Requiem, or Palomina Swan, first name inspired by the Greek muse of dance and last name likely Swan Lake. In addition to the usual spider powers, she has the ability to control these like puppets that she makes. Based on her spider name, I am inclined to believe that there is something supernatural and underworldly about those puppets. And finally, number 1, Spinner. Cassandra Kelly doesn't just have spider powers, she also got a boost from the goddess Athena. Really, the goddess was the one who blessed Spinner with her spider powers, in addition to clairvoyance, as you can see with the third eye on her suit, and the ability to weave light.
At number 10 is the cinematic Madame Web. Madame Web is about Cassandra Webb, a paramedic with a unique power to see into the future after a near unaliving experience. The trailer hints at her struggle to understand these visions until she sees a dangerous man planning something awful. Even though she's not sure why, she knows she has to stop him. Now, the trailer doesn't really say which universe this story is in, or why the bad guy's outfit looks exactly like Spider-Man's, but it does tease that Cassandra's friends will become different spider-themed heroes like in the Marvel comics. Now, it's a bit odd because just like with the Venom movies, this one seems packed with Spider-Man stuff, but lacking Spider-Man himself. Still, with the third Spider-Verse movie on the way and big things happening in the MCU, maybe it's not that surprising. Madame Web hits theaters on February 14th, 2024, and it looks like it's going to be filled with classic Spider-Man characters, even if Spidey himself isn't swinging by. I love that the Spider-Verse and Spidey villains like Kraven and Venom and Morbius and now Madame Web are getting their own films from Sony, but I just can't help but feel like someone's missing, don't you think? Like, come on, Sony, just give me like a Miles cameo at least. At number 9 is Julia Carpenter, the second iteration of Madame Web in 616. Julia Cornwall's life took various turns before becoming Madame Web. Growing up in Los Angeles, she experienced the joy of marriage and motherhood only to face heartbreak when her husband cheated, leading to their divorce. Now, her journey into superhero status was also unconventional. As part of a government experiment, she was unwittingly injected with a blend of spider venom and plant extracts, endowing her with the abilities akin to Spider-Man's powers. She became the Spider-Woman and later got entangled in a Purlia scheme orchestrated by the Karninoff family where Madame Web, morally wounded, transferred her extraordinary powers to Julia. This transformed her into the new Madame Web, despite rendering her blind. Julia, now the weaver of the Spider family's destiny, possessed exceptional abilities like precognition and astral projection. Her newfound powers even hinted at possible teleportation, though it's more likely she just projected vivid images to appear elsewhere. Her role expanded beyond foreshadowing alternate futures, guiding heroes, and even preventing catastrophic outcomes. If you're enjoying the video so far, you can support the channel by pressing like, subscribing to Top 10 Nerd, and ringing that notification bell. And number 8 is Gwen Stacy's Madame Web. Gwen Stacy in this reality is known as Madame Web, but she didn't expect to become a leader in a multiverse filled with spider-themed figures. Her journey began unexpectedly due to a convergence of realities. As someone experienced in navigating different dimensions, Gwen took on the responsibility of welcoming and guiding displaced individuals in this Spider-Verse. However, tragic events unfolded, shattering her initial plans. Spider people, united by their shared trauma, faced a grave threat when they unwittingly brought in symbiotes during their quest for solutions. This sparked a prolonged battle, resulting in significant losses, and amidst the darkness, Gwen Stacy emerged as a beacon of hope, transforming into Madame Web almost overnight. This Madame Web shoulders the responsibility of overseeing the well-being of all the inhabitants, human or otherwise, in this merged reality. Fun fact is that her arsenal also includes a web crossbow concealed as a cane, which is super dope. At number 7 is Spider-Zero. Spider-Zero is a young woman possessing spider-like abilities who traversed the multiverse after her home universe's destruction. Disconnected from any specific reality, she adapted as the Master Weaver within the web of life and destiny. When the Pattern Maker vanished and the web faltered, Spider-Zero sought Spider-Man's aid to locate Annie and mend the corrupted web. During a mission to rescue Spider-Ling from a tangled node, Spider-Zero grappled with the haunting memories of her original reality, and despite the turmoil, she worked with Miles to resolve the crisis, restoring balance to the web. Afterwards, while other spider heroes returned to their respective dimensions, Spider-Zero chose to remain within the web. Her journey, defined by transcending realities and safeguarding the web's integrity, exemplifies her commitment to maintaining balance across the multiverse. At number 6 is the Widow of the Web from Earth. The Widow of the Web is an alternate version of Madame Web, who's steeped in mystical abilities. She possesses a profound sorcery, utilizing it to grant powers to the Web Slinger, imposing a condition that forbids using these abilities for personal gain. Now, following a crucial event where the Web Slinger violated this condition, the Widow of the Web bestowed him with a heavy burden of responsibility, compelling him to become the guardian of Webwood. Her powers encompass a diverse range of magical abilities, including the capability to bestow powers upon others and generate organic webbing. Although her exact proficiency in magic remains unspecified, her association with mystical practices hints at a considerable command over these forces. Notably, The Widow of the Web is speculated to share connections with Madame Web or Spider-Woman, but the specifics of these connections remain ambiguous and open to interpretation. At number 5 is Madame Web from Earth 51914. This Madame Web is an obscure character introduced in a 1977 Hostess Twinkies ad, which is a vengeful figure fixated on Spider-Man. Her obsession stemmed from Spider-Man's rejection, prompting her to use her spidery abilities to ensnare New York Harbor, aiming to frame Spider-Man. However, her scheme was foiled when Spider-Man offered her Hostess Twinkies cakes as a bribe, persuading her to relinquish her plan and clear his name. Notably, this version of Madame Web is distinct from the more recognized Madame Web in the Marvel Universe. This portrayal holds no affiliation with the established characters Madame Web or her subsequent successor, Madame Web. At number 4 is Spinster. Spinster is a unique totem in the Spider-Verse, using her prehensile hair to produce webbing and perceive vibrations across the webs. As a superhero, she possessed the extraordinary ability to interpret every movement transmitted through her webbing, enabling her to eavesdrop from a great distance. Initially originating as a fan-created character called Spider-Sona, Spinster was later featured in Marvel Comics Spider-Verse Volume 3. Marvel reached out to fans to create new Spider-Sonas for the Spider-Verse, leading to Spinster's introduction into the Spider-Verse profile in issue number 1, and subsequent appearances in issue 6 alongside other Spider-Sonas. The Spinster's inclusion in the Spider-Verse narrative brought her into adventure alongside established characters like Spider-Man and Spider-Zero. At number 3 is Neith. Neith is a deity in the Marvel Universe who embodies the role of the goddess of spiders. Born to powerful elder goddess Oshter and Gaia, she's the younger sister of Shathra, the wasp goddess. Neith's story involves a celestial task where her sister Shathra was assigned to design a map of the multiverse. While Shathra focused on an intricate design called the Great Nest, Neith crafted her own creation, the Great Web, suggesting a more straightforward approach. Impressed by Neith's innovative design, the goddess acknowledged her creation, showcasing it to other gods and crowning her as the shaper of the multiverse. This success, however, kindled jealousy in Shathra, leading to her transformation into a dark goddess filled with spite and desire for revenge. Neith's character is depicted as playful, preferring relaxation and playfulness over intense work. She advocates for free will, evident in her design of the Web of Life and Destiny, offering humanity the liberty to forge their own paths. Her creation of the spider served as assistance, allowing her to avoid the arduous task of maintaining the web herself. At number 2 is Edna Brock, aka Madame Venom. In Extreme Venomverse number 3, we're introduced to a Madame Brock from Earth 31913, a symbiote variant that's an absolute game changer. She seamlessly blends classic Venom traits with fresh ideas and a touch of Madame Web's mystique, offering a unique take on the character. Now let's take a moment to talk about Webslinger, a cowboy Spider-Man from the same reality. After a chance encounter in a small town, he befriends Edna Brock, aka Madame Web. Now she's not your average Venom variant. With her whip as her weapon, she embraces the lethal protector ideology, adding a new layer to the character. Madame Web's design is a fusion of Venom's monstrous appearance with a classic Western twist with that black veil of hers, making her a visual standout. But the most exciting part, Madame Brock's connection to the Web of Life and Destiny could make her a key player in multiverse-level events. This new Venom variant is a breath of fresh air and one of the most intriguing additions to the Marvel Universe. And at number 1 is Cassandra Webb. That's 2 B's, y'all. Respect the second B. Just want to take a moment to give respects to the OG. Cassandra Webb from Salem, Oregon had a unique life. Blind from birth, she faced challenges due to a condition called myasthenia gravis. I totally butchered that. Surprisingly, her blindness led to psychic abilities, turning her into a medium. Later on in a significant event, she engaged in an arcane ritual involving 5 relics. This ritual granted immense power or dire consequences. These relics, combined in a ritual, bestowed the following powers: power, knowledge, immortality, insanity, and the state of being unalive. These powers weren't what they seemed at first. What first seemed like madness was in fact knowledge, what seemed like power was madness, and what seemed like being unalive was actually immortality. Cassandra Webb received immortality, but this blessing was actually just a catch-22. You see, while Madame Webb would be immortal, that really just meant that the Madame Webb legacy would continue on through Julia Carpenter, while Cassandra Webb herself is just as mortal as you or I.
Kicking off the list at number 10 is Spider-Cat. Ah! It's a kitty! It's a little kitty cat Miles Morales. Or, I'm so sorry, Meows Morales. No, I'm not joking, that's actually his name. Look at his little cute face. Coming to us very briefly in the pages of Spider-Man Annual Volume 3, Number 1, Spider-Cat was one of the combatants in the first ever Secret War. Yes, that's Secret Wars, but animalified. He appeared for about 5 minutes when he was knocked into the window of the Watch Dogs bar and had an extremely brief conversation with Howard the Duck and Spider-Ham, during which Meow's uncle, Uncle Heron, was mentioned, who in this animal universe has the evil alter ego of dun dun dun, the Growler. Ooh, nice. Unfortunately, the Celestial who was supervising this battle realm was just a big old grumpy grump and decided that he would completely destroy the place, including anyone who inhabited it. But I will hold out hope that we get to see Meows Morales once again in the future, at some point. Hopefully. Maybe. Number 9, Dark Ages. Dark Ages is, in my humble opinion, a pretty underrated story. Essentially, a superpowered machine known as the Unmaker was causing massive devastation in the core of the planet, and in an attempt to stop the threat, a portal created by Doctor Strange released an EMP that completely crippled the world's technology. The story essentially sees the world rebuilding itself without the use of any advanced technology, while also dealing with the many threats of the world, including werewolves, vampires, and supervillains, specifically the mutant apocalypse. Miles was one of the survivors of this new society, although here, Miles became bonded to the Venom symbiote, which he used to try and help during the first early years. They worked together well until the Carnage symbiote also forcibly bonded itself to Miles as well. Not like Carnage kicking out Venom, I'm talking Carnage corrupting Venom, and the two symbiotes both agreed to take over Miles' body. And they even went to work for Apocalypse in exchange for a starship to escape the Earth. All the while, Miles remained unconscious, being used as an unwilling host. It sounds horrifying, but the Venom Carnage combo was absolutely awesome in my opinion. A little scary, but awesome. Very awesome. Number 8, Deathlock. Just like what happens on Earth 616, the Miles Morales of Earth 807128 also eventually became a member of the Champions. However, while acting as a champion, Dr. Octopus opened up a portal to the Negative Zone, allowing Annihilus and the Annihilation Wave to come to Earth. Now, Miles, being a hero among heroes, confronted the invading wave, but because he's not that powerful, he was inevitably defeated. But luckily, instead of being outright robbed of his life, he was instead brought to Annihilus. Now, face to face with Annihilus, Miles ended up stealing the cosmic control rod that gives its wielder control over the Annihilation Wave. Only, instead of taking command of the wave, Miles instead swung away and using his Venom Blasts, destroyed the rod completely, losing his own life in the process. It was after all of that he was later turned into a Deathlock. As a Deathlock, one of his missions was to hunt down Conan the Barbarian, whose presence in the present time was causing damage to the timeline. And all that takes place in Savage Avengers Volume 2 from 2022, and you can go read it yourself. Number 7, Spider-Man Life Story. The comic story Spider-Man Life Story sets itself apart from the rest of the Marvel multiverse by having no sliding time scale. Essentially, this means that Peter Parker and Miles Morales aged like they realistically would from the moment their comics were first issued. So for Miles, he always coexisted with Peter Parker, gaining his powers in 2011 when he was 13 years old, when he was bitten by a radioactive spider. Now, during a time that Peter was missing, Miles took on the Spider-Man mantle until Peter finally came back and took Miles under his wing. Miles worked alongside Peter's resistance when Dr. Doom successfully overtook the Earth with the help from Dr. Octopus. Now, Miles and Peter were key members of the Resistance, but unbeknownst to Dr. Doom, Doc Ock was essentially gaining knowledge to swap his consciousness into the body of Spider-Man, just like he did in the Superior Spider-Man arc, which eventually he did, only this time it was Miles, trapping Miles in Octavius's failing body. Now, being a lot older than the Peter we are used to, Peter Parker figured out what Otto had done, convinced him to undo it, and then sacrificed himself to free the Earth of Dr. Doom. When Otto actually kept his word and returned Miles to his own body, Miles was given Mary Jane's blessing to carry on as this world's main Spider-Man at the age of around 20-21 years old. That was confusing. Number 6, Spider Mole. Look, we've already got Spider Ham, a pig, and we have Spider Cat, which is a cat. So I mean, it kinda just makes sense that we gotta have a Spider Mole. And that's exactly what we got in all new, all different Avengers Annual number 1 from August of 2016. Spider Mole was, yes, you guessed it, an anthropomorphic mole with the proportionate abilities of a spider. Does it sound completely bonkers? Yes. Are we surprised? Nope. Or at least we really shouldn't be. Spider-Mole used his awesome spider powers to become a superhero who would often spend his time with Hiss Marvel. Yes, that's Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, as a snake. When the villain Quack-O-Lantern broke into a bank, Spider-Mole and Hiss Marvel were there to save the day before they went back to their date. Ooh la la, fancy fancy fancy, wow. Number 5, Earth 1048. Finally! It's the Miles Morales from the acclaimed Marvel's Spider-Man video game. This version of Miles ranks among quite a few people's favorites, and I think that is more than fair considering just how awesome each game from this series has been so far. Miles' standalone game, while shorter than the first, was in some ways an improvement over its predecessor. In the original game, though, is where we got his origin. When Miles' father was going to be awarded at the New York City Hall for his heroic acts helping Spider-Man, Martin Lee, acting as his evil alter ego, Mr. Negative, attacked as part of his revenge plot against the mayor Norman Osborn. There's a whole lot going on here. Miles' father's passing caused Miles to become distant and reckless to the point of trying to fight criminals by himself, which is when he was saved by Spider-Man. Meeting his hero was a big deal for Miles, and they kind of became like unofficial friends when Spider-Man suggested that Miles help out at the shelter alongside Mary Jane and Aunt May. It was here, while helping move boxes at the shelter, that a genetically altered spider that had hitched a ride on Mary Jane Watson's jacket from a secret lab at Norman Osborn's apartment jumped off Mary Jane and made its way down to the boxes Miles was moving, causing him to be bitten. That's the Sparks Notes version of that story. You'll have to watch or play the game yourself to learn his whole story. I'm personally excited to see where his character goes in the second game when it finally comes out. Number 4, Earth 42. Okay, before we jump into anything here, if you have not seen the animated Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie yet, and you don't want spoilers, then I suggest that you may want to skip ahead to our third spot today. I repeat, spoiler warning ahead. Okay. As most of you know, Miles Morales was born to Jefferson Morales and Rio Morales in Brooklyn, New York. That's the same here on Earth 42. However, on Earth 42, Miles was supposed to become the Spider-Man, only the spider that was supposed to bite him was actually teleported to Earth 1610B, where it bit the Miles Morales from the first Spider-Verse movie and then later lost its life. This left Earth 42 with no Spider-Man to protect it. Another factor that altered the life of this Miles Morales was the passing of his father, Jefferson. This left Miles being raised by his uncle, Aaron Davis. This inadvertently led to Miles donning what would have been his uncle's suit and becoming this universe's Prowler. Okay, now we can move on. Number 3, Married. This one is an interesting one, specifically because the Earth that this Miles calls home, Earth 8, is actually a possible future of yet another alternate Earth, Earth 65. In Earth 8, Miles Morales ends up marrying the Gwen Stacy Spider-Woman of another alternate Earth, and as a superhero duo, they become pretty famous celebrities. Alongside their 2 children, Spider-Girl and Spider-Boy, plus Spider-Ham, Penny Parker, Jerry Drew, and this really cool Craven-looking Spider-Woman, Miles and Gwen led the Amazing 8, this world's greatest superhero team. While Miles and Gwen were on their second honeymoon in Vanaheim, Gwen's younger self from Earth 65 accidentally arrived in Earth 8's New York and went to the Amazing 8 and specifically Spider-Ham for help to fight Silk back in her reality. Unbeknownst to Miles or Earth 8 Gwen, the 6 other members of the Amazing 8 did indeed go and help the Gwen from Earth 8. From Earth 65. Earth 8? Earth 60? Earth 65. God damn it. Number 2, Mind Spinner. For some reason, when Marvel decided to give us Miles Morales, I guess they couldn't think of any really unique or creative stories, so, just like Peter Parker, Miles got his own Clone Saga storyline. Was it necessary? Maybe not. Did it have awesome stuff? You bet your pants it did. In case you haven't guessed yet, Mind Spinner was indeed a clone of Miles. Unlike Miles though, Mind Spinner had actual physical spider qualities, meaning he had actual massive spider legs, which is just terrifying. But beyond that, Mind Spinner also didn't develop the ability to speak. Instead, he seemed to have psionic abilities which he could also turn into telepathic attacks. Mind Spinner and his brothers escaped and tried to find a way to stay alive as they were not going to last due to their unstable cells and rapid aging processes. Now, Mind Spinner and his brother Salim were arguably the more sinister of the Miles clones, and in their desperation to save their own lives, they would try and attack Miles' family, with Mind Spinner specifically going for his mom. Luckily, Miles was able to stop him. It wasn't until another of Miles' clones saved the day that the other clones began to turn on each other, and Mind Spinner and Salim ended up destroying each other, leaving just one clone left. And in at number 1, it's Shift. That other clone would be Shift. Shift is pretty unique compared to the other two clones. While Salim and Mind Spinner had more spider-like or Miles-like abilities, Shift himself was considered a failed clone due to his unstable form. But this was actually just part of his shape-shifting abilities. Shift can expand, contract, or stretch his own mass. He has grown multiple limbs and even changed his whole appearance to that of a monster before. He's quite cool. But what's even cooler is that unlike his brothers, Shift seems to have a bit more of a heroic morality. At one point, when he was left alone to guard Miles while Mind Spinner and Salim went off to attack Miles' family, Shift instead helped out his genetic template. He was the one to save Miles' sister from Salim, which caused the clone to attack Shift, which caused Mind Spinner to attack Salim, and that is how the other two clones passed away, leaving just Shift as the last remaining clone and an ally to Miles. There's a really cool story where Shift and Miles take on Salim from a different reality, but that's a tale for another time, so sorry. Coming in at number 10 is Earth 616. Most fans of Miles Morales know this already, but for those who aren't aware, the Miles Morales that has become the second Spider-Man and who all the alternate Miles are based on is actually not native to the main Marvel universe. That Miles actually comes from Marvel's Ultimate Universe, the Earth 1610 universe. So then, that kind of begs the question of who and where the heck is the main continuity Miles Morales? Well, he's there, but he is much different. Miles Morales was a member of the Rigoletto crime family who ended up with a 3-year sentence in Rikers Island to cover for his cousin, which got him the respect of the family and of Wilson Fisk, who Miles saved in prison. Miles and Fisk opened a restaurant together after they both got out, and when Wilson took over the crime family, he let Miles go and live a happy life with his wife. Unfortunately though, when his wife passed away, Miles went to find the same woman in an alternate universe, which brought him into conflict with Peter Parker and the main Miles Morales Spider-Man, and eventually brought him to Earth 1610, the Ultimate Universe, where he found his love again. Now when he returned to Earth 616, Miles had outfitted himself with an Ant-Man suit, Iron Man repulsors, and a Captain America looking shield, and he brought some friends in order to face his younger Miles counterpart and try and run the streets of New York once again. Number 9. Thor. Last year, in 2022, in case you were watching this from the future, we got a whole series of What If comics centered specifically around the character of Miles Morales, and each issue of that comic gave us a different Miles who had taken after a different hero. For the 4th issue of this series, the World Tree of Yggdrasil had found itself in Brooklyn, creating a version of Brooklyn that was Asgardified, or an Asgard that has been Brooklynified. I guess, you pick. In case you haven't guessed, the Miles Morales of temporary reality number 951 has indeed become Thor Odin's son. All the other classic pillars of the Thor mythos are here too, substituted with Miles' mom and dad for Frigga and Odin, his friends substituting as the Warriors 3, and of course his uncle Aaron as the trickster god Loki, who tricks Thor Odin's son Morales into stealing the skull of the frost giant Laufey in order to impress his pops. If you check this one out, please let me know what you think of all the rhyming and rapping this version of Miles tries to do, and if it made you cringe like it made me cringe, because it really did make me cringe like quite a lot. Why did they do that? I don't know. Number 8. Ultimate Spider-Ham. Spider-Ham is one of the most popular alternate versions of Spider-Man out there, but he is just an alternate version of Peter Parker. Luckily for us, his popularity coupled with the popularity of Miles Morales gave us Miles Morhamus. Yes, that is his name, and he is the ultimate spider pig. As is the case in seemingly all universes, Miles' uncle was secretly a masked criminal known in this universe as the Fowler. One of the items Fowler had stolen turned out to be a radioactive spider, which is the one that bit Miles, granting him his spider abilities. Following the passing of the original Spider-Ham when he defeated the Green Gobbler once and for all, Miles stepped up to take his mantle in order to become the ultimate Spider-Ham. The world that Miles hailed from, Earth 14094, ended up actually being destroyed by Dr. Doom after the world was saved from Galactopus, who, he's not an octopus, but get this, Galactus is a platypus. I mean, come on. I feel like I'm way too excited about this. After the destruction of his reality, Miles traveled the multiverse, warning other universes of how to protect themselves against calamity until he arrived on Earth 1610, where he stayed. Number 7. Hulk. I wasn't done with the What If Miles Morales stories yet. I can't just give you guys one of those awesome Miles Moraleses. I can give you all the Miles Moraleses. Yeah, Miles Morales in this issue is very much like his normal self until the day that Uncle Aaron made a deal with Emil Blonsky. Aaron found himself in possession of a suspicious briefcase. Noticing a spider on said briefcase, Miles attempted to kill it, but instead accidentally knocked over the briefcase, which caused him to step on a nuclear cartridge, exposing himself to gamma radiation, and well, he got Hulkified in the middle of the night. Miles tries to keep his transformations on the down low and under control, enlisting the help of his friend Genki, who didn't believe him until Miles stepped on a Lego, which, as we all should know, causes a rage and turned him into the Hulk. Eventually, Miles spied on his uncle as the Prowler as he was dealing with Emil, which is when his uncle made an attempt at Emil's life. Now during their kerfuffle, another briefcase was dropped and Uncle Aaron also found himself being exposed to gamma radiation, but this time he was turned into the Abomination. Number 6. Into the Spider-Verse. Yes, of course we have to talk about the version of Miles Morales appearing in the awesome animated Spider-Verse movies. Voiced by actor Shameik Moore, this version of Miles Morales brought the character to a very large audience with an origin story that differed slightly from his original counterpart, but it also still retains enough elements of that original story, which I believe is part of the reason his universe designation is Earth 1610B instead of having its own separate reality number. The best part of this Miles Morales though is when the Spider-Verse opens up and he gets to interact with the various other Spider-Men and women across the multiverse. The first movie was an absolute hit. It had a dope soundtrack, an amazing animation style with a superb cast, hilarious writing, and a heap of heartfelt moments. Now I have yet to see the sequel, but I am super excited to see where this Miles Morales goes with his story. Number 5. Mayor. This version of Miles Morales comes at us from the series known as The End, which basically chronicles the final stories of various different heroes in the Marvel landscape. Some of the most famous of these stories have been the Hulk The End and Deadpool The End, but for Miles Morales, his possible alternate future takes place decades from now in a ravaged place that was once New York City. Most places on Earth had been ravaged by monsters known as the Germs, with Brooklyn being one of the few places that had been saved and protected by this massive shield. Side note, I like how germs are the monsters here. Like, it's kind of like all those things you learn about as kids when germs were like little monsters, but now they're actual monsters. Kind of hilarious, kind of cool. I don't know. But after becoming Spider-Man and letting the world know his identity, Miles was chosen as mayor of Brooklyn and as its protector. He faced off against a Captain America wannabe known as Captain Last and his One America army of raiders. After Captain Last eventually merges with a germ in order to attack Brooklyn, Miles sacrifices his life to bring the captain down and save the lives of everyone in Brooklyn. Good job. Way to go. Number 4. Wolverine. Yep, it's another Miles Morales what if, and I don't know why Wolverine is the last person I expected to see in this series, but I'm extremely okay with it. Miles Morales in this world is instead a mutant with the same abilities as Wolverine. When he is younger, Miles is stolen away alongside other children by Weapon X, who turn him into the adamantium skeleton superweapon just like the regular Wolverine. Now fast forward a few years, and now in this world, Sentinels are being used to hunt down mutants by S.H.I.E.L.D. And after Miles takes out like 3 of them, S.H.I.E.L.D. sends this super cool looking warrior wielding an adamantium katana to take Miles out. This awesome S.H.I.E.L.D. warrior turns out to be Miles' father, and once he discovers this Wolverine mutant is his own son, he instead turns on S.H.I.E.L.D., which is when they send in Miles' uncle Aaron, who seems to be this world's version of Sabretooth. Miles' father defends his son to his dying breath until Miles jumps in to beat Sabretooth to a pulp and almost ends him before his father convinces him not to and to instead be a hero. It all wraps up with the X-Men showing up to recruit Miles, but led by Professor X, who is Genki Lee. It's just wild. It's so cool. Number 3, Vision Miles. No, this is not a highly advanced android version of Miles Morales. It is, in fact, the Miles Morales who exists in a possible future shown to us in a vision from the inhuman precog known as Ulysses Kane. The reason I want to talk about this seemingly insignificant version of Miles Morales who only appeared in a vision is because this Miles was able to take the life of Captain America. Now obviously Captain America is not an indestructible guy. He's not the most powerful hero and he could probably be taken out by any number of heroes, but the respect that Captain America carries and the influence he has makes him one of those characters that you simply do not see being taken out very often. So, to see it happen here in Civil War II at the hands of Miles Morales on the steps of the ruined United States Capitol building in the reality of Earth 61115 is one hell of a shocking image. I want to know what happens after Miles does this, but we won't know until a writer decides to take the initiative to put out a story set in this alternate crazy reality. Number 2, the Falcon. Temporary reality number 852 gave us a Miles whose history is similar to his Earth 1610 counterparts, only he never gained powers from a genetically engineered spider. Instead, this Miles' favorite heroes were the totally underrated Nighthawk and his sidekick and partner, the Falcon. Unfortunately, like how Spider-Man lost his life to the Goblin in the Ultimate reality, in this one it's the Falcon that ultimately croaked at the hands of the Goblin. This devastated Miles, and he took it as his opportunity to take the reins. Creating a costume similar to the Falcon's using his electrical engineering skills, Miles aided Nighthawk as he was battling the villains Scorpion and Scorpia, but Nighthawk was not too receptive to this pretender coming in and trying to replace his old partner. Wanting to prove to Nighthawk that he could be a hero, Miles created the Young Squadron with Kid Spectrum and Girl Power. While Miles and the Young Squadron were fighting the Wrecking Crew, Miles was stolen away by the Goblin's partner Deadpool, who was attempting to make sure the Falcon Mantle never came back. Deadpool was eventually defeated by the other members of the Young Squadron, and after handing Deadpool over to Nighthawk, Miles and the Young Squadron decided to be a better team than the other heroes of their reality. And finally, in at number 1, Captain America. Yes, we are rounding off today's list with the very first of the What If Miles Morales stories, which in my opinion is one of the best. In the very first issue, Miles' dad is part of the new super soldier program inspired by the original that created Captain America. Uncle Aaron, who always plays a large part in Miles' life, steals the super soldier serum and keeps it in his fridge, which is where Miles finds it looking for a drink. It turns out Miles is actually a perfect match for the serum, and he becomes the new Captain America. It's super cool because not only is Miles the new Cap, but Tiana Toombs becomes the Falcon and Sam Wilson becomes the new director of S.H.I.E.L.D. with the eye patch and everything. Uncle Aaron becomes Prowler after being attacked by Black Widow, and Lonnie Lincoln is the Grey Skull, which is this reality's Red Skull. Miles here seems to be just as powerful as the normal Captain America, if not a little younger and by extension, a little bit more naive.
Number 10, Animated Spider-Verse. I love this version of Gwen, although really she is pretty similar to her comic book counterpart, but maybe that's why I love her so much. One thing she does have that her comic book counterpart does not is an audible voice. In both Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, Gwen is voiced by Haley Steinfeld, who does an amazing job. I love how much we've gotten to explore her story, and I am hoping we get to spend a bit more time in her Earth, the animated Earth 65, going forward in the franchise. And friends, before we move on to our next spot on this list, if you love what we do here at Top 10 Nerd, and if you love alternate versions, we do have an alternate versions playlist, so you can click it, check it out. Number 9, Ghost Spider-Man. While only making a brief appearance in the comics, I have to mention this one. You know me, I'm a big Spider-Man fan, so any opportunity to talk about her, I am here for it, and I'm here for this one too. Unfortunately for me, she actually has an alternate that is both a combination of her and Ghost Spider. Ghost Spider-Man is one of the alternate heroic versions of May that appears in Spider-Verse issue number 2, when she summons the power of her alternates to defeat the Carnage variant. The costume Ghost Spider-Man wears is near identical to Gwen's. And for those who don't know, Ghost Spider is also the codename for Gwen. Like I said, she has had many codenames. Number 8. Witch Hunter Gwen. This one comes to us from an alternate cover, but I wanted to include it here because I love the design and I love the idea of Gwen in such a different role as this. This alternate version of Gwen appeared solely on the 2015 cover for 1602 Witch Hunter Angela issue number 1. At least, I believe we've only seen her here. This isn't the only time Gwen would appear as an alternate on a cover though either. During the summer of 2015, we were all suffering from Gwen fever, and as such she appeared on 20 different alternate covers, with all of them featuring different versions of Gwen. And since then, she's also had her own Gwenverse sort of come about, so there's a lot of Spider-Gwen out there running around, a lot of variants. Number 7. Ghost Spider. Not really a full-on alternate of Gwen, but another character that uses this same name, Ghost Spider. And I like Ghost Spider, so I thought I would include him. Ghost Spider is actually an alternate Peter Parker from Earth 11638. He is the version of Spider-Man who never lost his uncle. Instead, Uncle Ben helped Peter with his training, but also kind of turned him into a monster. Peter in this world was extremely successful, a wealthy celebrity scientist and philanthropist who also fought crime as the vigilante Amazing Spider. However, he started to use his technology to trap other spider variants from other worlds so he could drain them of their powers, taking all that power for himself. Having never learned the lesson, with great power comes great responsibility, but instead, with great power comes a great responsibility to stay powerful from his uncle. However, when 616 Spider-Man was about to be drained, this alternate version had actually a change of heart and ended up sacrificing himself to free the main reality Peter, seemingly perishing but really becoming something new, becoming one with his regrets and the souls of the underworld. He was revived as Ghost Spider. No hyphen. And he's basically kind of like Ghost Rider meets Spider-Man, but he also uses the name Ghost Spider, so I just thought he would be an interesting one to include since he uses the same name that Spider-Gwen uses now currently in the comics. Number 6. Secret Wars. This version of Spider-Gwen is from the 2015 A-Force series. She was an alternate from the reality of Earth 16191, one of the protectors of Doom's Battle World realm known as Arcadia, one of the patchwork domains from God Emperor Doom's kingdom that appeared during the 2015 Secret Wars event. In this reality, Spider-Gwen saved MJ from a Marvel Zombies horde, and it's kind of implied that the two may have some kind of romantic relationship in this universe. Or I don't know, they just seemed kind of flirty to me, so I could be wrong there, but picking up on some flirting. My flirting meter went off. Number 5. Gwenum. Not the official name of this character, but a name that I gave them. While on Earth 65, Spider-Gwen actually does become Venom for a time, there is actually a version of her who stays as Venom and also becomes a detective. And actually the name that we know Gwen as is kind of Gwenum, or like that's the editorial name, or Venom, but this version is Venom all the time, so I just thought why not just call her Gwenum, but she doesn't go by that name, just so you know. This is pretty cool though, right? This Gwen variant is from the alternate reality of Earth 617, where her origin story was actually the same as the 616 Gwen Stacy counterpart, up until she had a run-in with her own alternate from Earth 65, which caused the timeline to split, hence why her reality is known as 617. Get it? It's 616, but like one change. After the death of her father, George Stacy, which Gwen initially blamed Spider-Man for, Gwen ran into Spider-Gwen of Earth 65. Following their run-in with one another, where each was able to kind of provide some insight that helped the other, Gwen of Earth 617 was inspired to become a detective. Later, she would bond with the Venom symbiote of her Earth, becoming the hero known as Spider-Woman. But I like to call her Gwenum, just because if I called everyone Spider-Woman on this list, it'd be confusing. Speaking of, number 4. Spider-Woman. Seriously, one of the cutest realities around. On this Earth, Spider-Gwen is married to Miles Morales, and the two of them actually have kids together, one daughter and one son. Their children also inherited superpowers and fought for justice alongside their mom and dad as members of the Amazing Eight. The Amazing Eight is Earth 8's premier superhero team, which is made up of actual Spider spider heroes from across the multiverse. This Gwen is not just a member of the Amazing 8 team, but also belongs to the Council of Spider-Women, which is made up of, well, you guessed it, alternate versions of Spider-Woman from across the Marvel multiverse, or Spider-Verse if you prefer. Number 3, Ghost Spider, with the hyphen. Ghost Spider is technically the main version of this character, but the weird thing is that although she may be more popular than the original Gwen Stacy from Marvel Comics at this point, who has been long gone, Spider-Gwen, or Ghost Spider as she is now known, actually started off herself as a variant. However, she has become so popular among fans that she's kind of become more known now as the main version of that character, which is kind of wild to think about. So even though it feels weird to have her on this list, as you know, she's the main person to inspire the variants that are on the list, she's the main person that inspired this list, it feels weird to not have her on here since she herself was inspired by the original Gwen Stacy of Earth 616. So really, she's a variant. Ghost Spider has been known by many names, initially being known as Spider-Woman before becoming Venom in her reality, and later becoming more well known as Spider-Gwen until recently in 2019, when she took the codename of Ghost Spider for herself. Number 2, Gwen Stacy. Gwen Stacy is technically also a main version of Gwen, if not, you know, the main version of Gwen, since she herself was the original. She hails from Earth 616, known as the main Marvel continuity in the comics. Here, Gwen's story was cut short when she was tragically killed during a fight between Green Goblin and Spider-Man. Being tossed from either George Washington or Brooklyn Bridge, depending on the version that you're reading of this story, Gwen plummeted towards the ground. Without enough time to catch her himself, Spider-Man shot a web towards her. This succeeded in securing Gwen, saving her from the fall, but tragically is believed to have caused Gwen's neck to snap, instantly killing her. Still, while Gwen is no longer among the living in the Earth 616 universe, her presence is constantly felt, with her friends and loved ones constantly remembering her and keeping her memory alive. Most recently, Spider-Man saw the progenitor adopt the image of Gwen during the AXE Judgment Day event, while acting as his judge, which shows you just how important Gwen still is to Peter even today, despite her being gone for so long from his life. Number 1, Gwenpool. Gwenpool is one of my favorite Gwen alternates. She is actually an alternate version of 2 different characters, a mashup of Gwen Stacy and Deadpool, hence Gwenpool. Gwenpool originates from a world where superheroes exist only in fiction, which has led many to believe that she exists in our universe, Earth 1218, the real world. However, Gwen doesn't actually have an official designated number for her Earth yet, so it's still kind of up for debate. Regardless, Gwen preferred to live in a fantasy world and eventually did end up in a fantasy world, coming to Earth 616. Finally existing in a world where superheroes were real, Gwen set out to become one herself, going out and getting a costume and ending up unintentionally with the hero name of Gwenpool.
Number 10, Twinkie Spider-Man. Woody Harrelson's character from Zombieland would be ecstatic. While originally a crossover advertisement deal between Hostess, you know, the company that owns Twinkies, Snowballs, and those cupcake snack pastries, and Marvel, the Spider-Man of Earth 51914 is an official member of the Spider-Verse, being defeated by Morlun in the first Spider-Verse comic in 2014. This sweet Spider-Man has all the same powers as our 616 Spider-based hero, only he has the added benefit of using Hostess snacks as equipment to distract, lure, and reason with criminals, and even get out of tight spots in his relationships, like when he gave Mary Jane a cupcake so he could slip away to fight crime. Yeah, using his pastry-based equipment, he was able to defeat The Fly, Printout Man, Simon the Evil Swami, Madame Web, Legal Eagle, an unnamed jewel thief, Chairman, Homewrecker, Demolition Derby, Photo Man, Hotshot, Junjitsu, Larsenius Lil, and the Human Computer. So yeah, that's not just a sponsor, it's an added ability that puts him a cut above any regular old Spider-Man. Number 9, Spider-Man Noir. When darkness falls on New York City, only one hero in a black fedora and a trench coat can use his keen detective skills and the powers bestowed upon him from a spider god to solve crimes and protect the citizens. It's Spider-Man, see? A grittier, more serious and ruthless world calls for a Peter Parker who is much the same, and the Spider-Man Noir is definitely that guy. After he seeks out revenge on the Goblin for taking away the life of his Uncle Ben, he goes to a warehouse where a spider idol containing thousands of spiders is broken. One of these spiders bites Peter, and zim zim zalabim, Peter has visions of a spider god and is granted abilities. Spider-Man Noir may not be the most powerful character in the Spider-Verse, but he has the power of popularity on his side, being a fan favorite character ever since his introduction, which is why, in my opinion, he is one of the only Spider-Men to survive Morlun, despite whatever excuses the comics gave. Number 8. Peyton Parnell. I think this is the most terrifying version of Spider-Man I have ever seen. Maybe even more so than Spider-Man. Peyton Parnell, or Patton Parnell, is nothing like Peter Parker. He's a sociopath, a maniac, and he has the ability to transform into a monster spider-slash-man hybrid with 8 eyes, 8 limbs, and massive spider-like fangs. Seeing this bald monster thing crawl around your walls and your ceiling, that's scary enough, but knowing he ate at least 3 people, including his uncle, and can implant hundreds and hundreds of baby spiders into you just by biting you, is absolutely nightmare-inducing. Luckily, he gets defeated pretty soon after his creation by Morlun, but at the time Patton Parnell from Earth 51412 was around, he was very powerful and very scary. Number 7. Spider-Ham. Hailing from a verse where all the Marvel characters are replaced with cartoon character animal versions of themselves, Peter Porker is Spider-Ham, a pig. Peter Porker was actually born a spider named Peter, and he lived in the basement lab of May Porker, a scientist who had created the world's first atomic-powered hairdryer. May Porker, using the atomic hairdryer, accidentally irradiated herself, and then bit Peter the Spider, which made him turn into an anthropomorphic pig, just like her, only with the relative powers of a spider. In his premiere issue, he would go on to do battle with Hulk Bunny, created when Bruce Bunny was trapped in an arcade cabinet and bombarded with gamma radiation. Look, I wish I was making all this up, I really do. Spider-Ham has most of the same abilities as 616 Spider-Man, only he has this rather unique ability called Spider Nonsense, which basically allows him to be more and more cartoony the more danger he is in, which is the perfect reason to have the wackiest nonsense happen that will save this piggy hide in some of the most imaginative ways possible. This power alone helps him to be an extremely powerful Spider-Man, or pig. Number 6. Takayuya Yamashiro. Instead of being Peter Parker, the Japanese Spider-Man, Spider-Man, is Takuya Yamashiro, a motocross racer and son of astrophysicist Dr. Hiroshi Yamashiro. Unlike most versions of Spider-Man, Takayuya was introduced through a live-action Japanese Spider-Man TV show. With that, his character differs quite a bit. For starters, his spider powers are a little less powerful due to budget constraints for the show, which is a hilarious reason. But to make up for that, he utilizes a whole mech named Leopardon, Power Ranger style, with arm rockets, a giant sword, and a boomerang. Classic. He uses Leopardon and his spider abilities to fight the Iron Cross Army. It's a group of suspiciously human-looking aliens from an unnamed world who are led by, wait for it, Professor Monster. Due to his popularity and just how awesome he is, Takayuya Yamashiro has become an official character in the multiverse, coming from Earth 51778, fighting against the Inheritors alongside the Spider Army, and he is set to appear in the second animated Spider-Verse movie, which I am pumped to see. Number 5. Superior Spider-Man. This variation of the Spider-Man is unique for this list. It is Peter Parker from Earth 616, only his body is actually inhabited by the mind of Otto Octavius, Dr. Octopus. But he isn't evil. No, being in the body of Peter gave Otto an insight into Peter's life and motivation, and actually gave him a change of heart. Now we have a Spider-Man with all the powers of Peter Parker, but the super genius intellect of Otto, who vowed to dedicate himself to being the best Spider-Man he could in honor of Peter, who had seemingly been de-lifed while inhabiting Otto's body. And boy, he did that vow justice. The combo of that body with this mind helped him to be one of the strongest versions of Spider-Man ever, with a new enhanced suit and a ruthless way of dealing with criminals. He would eventually sacrifice himself to allow Peter to come back to inhabit his body once again. But man, was this a powerful main universe variant. Number 4. Miles Morales. He is possibly one of the most popular variants of Spider-Man to come into the Marvel multiverse. And for good reason. Miles Morales is an incredible character. He has almost all the regular spider abilities plus some amazing powers unique to himself, namely his venom, which is like a form of bioelectricity that he can emit from his body and use in some really cool ways, like in punches, beams, and blasts, as well as at long range using his webbing. But it doesn't stop there. He is also able to use a spider camouflage to make his whole body and even his clothes and costume go invisible. And he is apparently immortal, as a side effect of the Oz formula that gave him his abilities. Miles hails from the Ultimate Universe of Earth 1610, which fits, because he is an ultimate version of Spider-Man. Number 3, Zombie Spider-Man. I know a lot of people are tired of hearing about Marvel zombies. Well, too bad! He's a powerful version of Spider-Man, so you know what? Just kind of deal with it, okay? Cool, alright. Yes, Zombie Spider-Man is essentially the same Spider-Man everyone is used to. All the same powers, at least. Except, after being bit by a zombie, he now also has a ravenous hunger that cannot be sated no matter what, which led him and a group of other heroes to consume the Silver Surfer and Galactus, which gave them all the power cosmic. With this power cosmic, the zombie Galacti have the ability to absorb and tap into ambient cosmic energy into their bodies at will and expel those energies, like channeling beams of energy through their hands with destructive force and teleporting through time and space, devouring entire planets. With this power, they have the potential to phase through objects, accelerate the evolution of life forms, see the past by peeling back the layers of time travel, and manipulate, absorb, and discharge any form of energy or radiation. Though Spider Zombie loses all of his power, he still had it, and was an incredibly powerful version of Spider-Man. Number 2, Penny Parker. This Parker from Earth 14512 doesn't actually have any powers of her own. So how is she at the number 2 spot? Because of the totally awesome mech SP//DR suit worn by her father before his demise, and that is half controlled by a radioactive spider. First appearing in Edge of Spider-Verse number 5 in October of 2014, Penny and the spider mech are essentially able to do anything, as she doesn't actually have any written limitations yet. Yes, that's a lame reason for her to be so powerful, but it is a legit reason all the same. The mech suit is outfitted with weapons for basically any situation a story calls for, and defenses that would put pretty much any other Spider-Man to shame. Why is she not higher up? Well, because all this could very easily change, and also because there is one variant of Spider-Man who is an ultimate universal threat. Number 1, Bully Maguire. The dance moves, the hair, the suit, able to flirt with anyone, demands promotions with a flick of his hair, unaffected by social norms, finger guns that could bring down an entire neighborhood, and a swagger that has everyone and their moms turning their heads. He is Bully Maguire. First appearing in Spider-Man 3 in 2007, this variation of Spider-Man has underneath his devilish suits a black venom-bonded spider suit that enhances his abilities and personality and gives him the awesome ability to throw some dirt in your eye that will make you lose your job. But if you want forgiveness, get religion. Bully Maguire has the unique ability to take to the internet, invading many different realities, including our own. Because of this, he has gone up against and shamed too many opponents to count. Thanos, Steve Harvey from Family Feud, President Joe Biden, Will Smith, characters in Star Wars, SpongeBob SquarePants, and the list goes on and on and on and continues to grow. There is truly no one safe from Bully Maguire, even me. Shout out to Arishen the Judge, who commented, "Bully Maguire is one of the most powerful beings in the universe. He possesses presumably all the same powers as the Prime Spider-Man." You weren't wrong and you inspired me, so thank you. Number 10, Peter Parker of Earth 92100. You'd think the addition of extra arms for a Spider-Man would be an added benefit. When it happened to Peter in the 616 universe, he panicked and got rid of it with the DNA of Morbius. Understandably. But on Earth 92100, Morbius did not live long enough to help Peter, being eaten by sharks of all things. And since no one else could, Peter kinda had to just deal with it. Turns out, during a fight with Doc Ock, after Peter embraced his extra appendages, they actually give him a distinct advantage. They actually grant him much more strength and agility, and using them, he is even able to save Gwen Stacy from her demise. Unfortunately, they don't really protect him from the inheritors. Spider Limbs here sacrifices himself to save Spider-Man 2099 and Lady Spider in Spider-Man 2099 Volume 2 Number 6 in 2014. Number 9. Spider Assassin. Do you know how effective Spider-Man would actually be if he was a little less moral but still a crime fighter? pretty effective. And while we've seen a few different examples of this, I chose to pull from What If? Spider-Man vs. Wolverine #1, where we are introduced to Spider Assassin. In his universe, with great power comes great responsibility and greater enemies, which led this Peter of Earth 8351 to leave New York to protect his family. He joined up with Wolverine, and likely because of this friendship, he is much less opposed to sending criminals to the afterlife. He's also almost always serious, not resorting to quips and jokes to cope with situations anymore, which is reflected in his costume, which is a much darker look, especially with those black eyes. I really dig it. His web shooters have also been shown to shoot black webs in some panels, and they also include firearms. He is an effective addition to the Spider Army when it was formed, and an extremely effective Spider-Man indeed. Number 8, Spider's Man. Alright, yeah. Nope, not a fan of this one. You ever seen those videos of people finding spider nests where it's literally a swarm of spiders? Yeah, okay, imagine that, but they're super powered and come together to take on a human form. Now you've got the terrifying Spider's Man, which, side note, that's a great name. In Spider-Geddon #3 of 2018, we are introduced to a colony of radioactively powered spiders who consumed a high school boy by the name of Peter Parker when he fell into their enclosure at Horizon Labs. After consuming Peter, the spiders gained a sort of hive mind in Peter's image and began fighting crime in Cruel York of Earth 11580. Other than his usual Spider-Man powers and the benefits of being a swarm of spiders, the colony is also able to poison its victims with a bite, or, if they're hungry for power, devour them whole. And it's incredibly hard to actually de-life this guy, as even a single spider being alive means technically Spider's Man is also still alive and can multiply to rebuild itself. Number 7, Spider UK. The first Spider-Man mashed with another Marvel hero. These mashups always make for powerful characters. Basically, Spider UK is William Braddock, hailing from Earth 833. If you haven't gathered from the Braddock namesake, Spider UK is what would happen if Spider-Man was Captain Britain. As such, he is part of the Captain Britain Corps, being introduced in the Edge of Spider-Verse Volume 1. He is also part of the Spider Army put together to take on the Inheritors, and a pretty important part of it, he was not only an amazing leader but also had a very useful dimension hopping ability. Unfortunately, this Spider-Man didn't actually have a spider sense, which is probably what allowed him to be de-lifed by an attack from behind in Spider-Geddon #1. Number 6, Spider-Man 2099. Probably one of the most loved characters on this list. The Spider-Man of Earth 928, Miguel O'Hara, or as he's better known, Spider-Man of the dystopian future of 2099. This version of Spider-Man has many similar abilities to 616 Peter Parker, but some that are not so similar. He has super speed, which is actually capable of somehow creating a decoy. His spider sense allows him to telepathically communicate with others. He has accelerated vision, he has retractable talons, and also has fangs that he can use to paralyze others. And he has the famously disgusting organic spider silk spinnerets on his wrists. He first appeared as a preview in Amazing Spider-Man #365 in June of 1992, and in his own series in Spider-Man 2099 #1 in September 1992, and he is a titanically awesome character. Number 5, the Spider of Earth 15. There are a lot of characters who go by the Spider, but specifically, I'm talking about the one that's bonded with the Carnage symbiote who comes from Earth 15. The Spider of Earth 15 is a much more sadistic, sociopathic, red-headed version of Peter Parker, which is proven by the fact that he has been sentenced to a total of 67 life sentences in prison for the crimes he has committed. To make him just a bit more lovable, he has a sense of humor very much like that of Deadpool. The Spider was introduced in Exiles #12 and was a big part of the reality-conquering Weapons X team featured in it, being a sometimes leader of that team. As a Carnage-bonded sociopath, he was pretty powerful, but he was nonetheless sent to the afterlife by a blast from Firestar in Exiles #44. Number 4, Poison. From one symbiote to another. Every time that pesky Venom symbiote would try to merge with Peter Parker, he would only get halfway before Peter could repel him. Now, what happens if Peter Parker is defeated by Venom, who completely bonds with him? In the What If Spider-Man The Other story, after Peter is defeated by Morlun and cocoons himself under Brooklyn Bridge, he is offered the chance to be resurrected by the Spider God. But instead of allowing this, he refuses and is ejected from his cocoon non-resurrected. Cut to Venom, who, being Spider-Man's crazy ex-girlfriend, senses what is happening and completely ditches his current host. He intercepts Peter's body and after months of struggling, fully bonds to Peter. Now, Peter has all the fully realized powers that come with being a symbiote, but he actually has stingers that are capable of piercing the skin of Luke Cage, which is pretty insane. Number 3, Spider-Hulk. The second Spider amalgam here. Spider-Man of the Immortal Hulk with Great Powers story is granted the alter ego of the Hulk after Loki magically transferred the Gamma power to him. So it's Spider-Man's relative spider powers mixed with an unstoppable green monstrosity with the temperament of a toddler. It's actually really cool. Eventually, the power of the Hulk is switched back to Banner with the help of the Fantastic Four and Banner's own genius. It's a short little story that seems almost self-contained, but it's an insanely cool one, and a Spider-Hulk would be an incredibly powerful character if he were to show up again and had more time to hone his abilities and temper tantrums. Number 2, Ghost Spider. The last Spider-Man mashup with other heroes, but nonetheless possibly one of the most powerful potential mashups. Also, in my opinion, the coolest looking one. Also, it appears that Uncle Ben leaving this plane of existence is actually a really good thing. See, on Earth 11638, Ben never loses his life to a mugger, and he helps train Peter with his powers and helping him form Parker Industries. Peter and Uncle Ben end up building a machine that allows Peter to lure alternate versions of Spider-Man to this reality where he absorbs their powers to increase his own. That kinda took a dark turn, didn't it? But when he tried to do this to the apparently most powerful Spider-Man from Earth 616, he is de-lifed and his soul is sent to hell, where, with the assistance of the Infernal Hulk, he is fused with the spirit of vengeance, becoming the Ghost Spider. If you know anything about Ghost Rider, you know how actually insanely powerful he is, even going toe-to-toe with Galactus at one point. So yeah, this Spider-Man / Ghost Rider guy is potentially extremely powerful. Number 1, Cosmic Spider-Man. There was a point in time when Peter Parker of Earth 616 absorbed the Enigma Force and became the most powerful version of Spider-Man we have ever seen, even capable of punching the Hulk into orbit. In the mainline continuity, he doesn't have it for very long, but on Earth 13, he kept the powers and became the hero Captain Universe. So, this Peter Parker has all the usual Spider-Man powers, but also now has cosmic awareness where he can sense things on a subatomic level and from crazy distances. He has energy manipulation, giving him energy blast and flight. He also used his abilities to manipulate matter, making his webs as strong as adamantium, or even changing their shape altogether. His universe became a safe haven for all the Spider-Men when the Inheritors were hunting them, because Captain Universe could defeat them, and his cosmic powers are gone when he leaves that dimension. Unfortunately, he is consumed by Solus, who used the life force basis of his powers against him in Amazing Spider-Man number 11 in 2014. He's still cool though.